Hello and welcome to the Business Accelerator course. In this video, we're going to be going through a whole bunch of business skills, tips, and tricks. And this is a series that's going to last a few weeks. In this lesson, we're going to focus on building your business as an asset. Having a business, having cash flow is great, but it's not the end of the story. Ultimately, you want to be able to one day sell, step away, and benefit from the efforts that you've gone to build your business. So in this course, we're going to go through some of those phases and really understand the growth journey from zero to business hero. So why are we starting from the beginning? Well, not only is it a very good place to start, but also most people build a business without really understanding what next. Like a business really has a life cycle. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And at some point, you're going to need to come to that end piece, either for yourself or for the business itself. So that end piece, if you sell, then becomes someone else's end piece, or maybe that's still their middle piece if it keeps going. But you're going to need to be able to one day hand it off to management or hand it off to a buyer so that you can retire. Time is a valuable thing. We only have so many years that we can practically work before we have to, retire and maybe do something else with our lives, something a little bit more benefiting from the fruits of your labor. So whether you like it or not, the reality is that you're not going to be running your business forever. And at some point, we need to make sure that it's not only profitable, but that it is valuable. It is a thing that can be passed on to somebody else. There are far too many businesses out there that rely on the business owner, businesses that run entirely out of the business owner's head. Nothing is written down, nothing is structured, nothing is processed. And so it makes it really difficult for that person to ever step away without just completely shutting it down. So in any business, you want to make sure that you get paid twice. Not only that it's actually making you a profit and making you money, but also at the end when you hand it off or sell it, that it is making you money. This dual focus, we're going to go through this course and cover exactly how we can do that. Your entrepreneurial journey begins long before you think it does. You have been training for this since before you even realize. And it's the culmination of your life experiences, your skills, your education that have brought you up until this point. The first phase of the entrepreneurial journey is the learner. This is where you're going to school. You're learning skills like maths and English and negotiation or communication. However, there are many examples where people who have not gone well through school have actually very well succeeded in the business world. Such names as Richard Branson and many, many others. But you still need the basics. And arguably, it's probably more valuable having the people skills, having spent time in the school environment, than if you were to be completely book smart. Because at the end of the day, businesses come down to your interactions with other people. So remembering that the school equips you with a basic foundation of skills, but it doesn't matter how well you've done at school. Taking Richard Branson again as an example, he had dyslexia. So learning was a great difficulty. Being able to read was a challenge, but he's gone on to build a multi-billion-dollar empire. So it's less about how you perform in school and more about your ability to continuously learn. This learning does not have to be academic. You can read books, business books, podcasts, watch YouTube videos. However, I would balance that with how deep you go on a particular topic. Try some light topics, medium topics, and deep topics. Otherwise, if you just go to social media, you're only going to get the surface level of everything, and it's not really going to be very effective. Traditional education prepares you to get a job or to be an employee. It shows you about management, structure, and things like that. Now, that's not necessarily bad if you're an entrepreneur, because you need to know how those things run. You need to be able to input a management structure. You need to be able to employ people who are in a job. So seeing things from their side can be valuable. However, business owners are generally pretty imaginative or creative or think outside the square or look for other opportunities. They don't follow the stringent rules that everybody else does. However, it's very important to be aware of those rules and those structures. In order to prepare to be a skilled entrepreneur, you need a wide range of experiences. You can't just narrow down on one niche topic. You need to know a lot of things about a lot of things. And of course, you're probably not going to start a business straight out of school. So you're probably going to start off as an employee, but use that time to learn. Now you're understanding how management structures work. You're understanding how policies and procedures are useful. You're understanding the value of turning up on time, presenting yourself well, and following processes and procedures. Believe it or not, having a job is great training for one day running your own business. But sometimes being stuck in one job can give you too much tunnel vision or too much of a limited field of perspective. So taking a few varieties of jobs can actually bring you more knowledge and experience so that you can disrupt the market, that you can come up with new ideas, new technologies, new processes. And by bringing together smarts in a different industry or line of work or line of business into one that is not using that skill, technology, idea, concept, you are creating a competitive advantage that perhaps nobody else has thought of yet. One example of this is bringing drone technology, which is generally a aerospace and technology thing, into agriculture and farming. So now we have drones that can spot vermin. We have drones that can spray weeds. We have drones that can go and check equipment that is very far away. Crossing those streams has made it really, really useful for understanding an application for a technology that wasn't being used in that space before. And then there's those different parts of the business. There's the actual doing of the task, and then there's administering the task. So you need to get a variety of experiences in doing the task, for example, in a mechanic shop, working on the cars. But then you might also want to work in the bookings and management side of the business, or perhaps in the accounting and legal side of the business. So having those variety of experiences give you a well-rounded set of skills that allow you to run your business. The solopreneur phase. Generally, unless you buy a business, the only way to really start a business is when you're small and on your own and you've got no resources, is by yourself. That is the solopreneur. So starting a business by yourself, you have to do absolutely everything from end to end. You have to find the customer, do the work, do the accounting, send the bill, collect the funds, do the marketing for the next job, and so on. This is one of the most difficult phases of business. One saying is commonly referred to in this space is kill a bear, eat a bear. And that is that whilst you're eating the bear, you can't be hunting, looking for the next one. So you're going to go through a period of starvation in between each kill. So you have to balance finding the work and doing the work. So whilst you're doing the work, you can't find the work. Whilst you're finding the work, you can't do the work. So one needs to fund the other, and you need to get the next one pretty quickly. So this means that you're wearing a lot of hats. You're doing all of the jobs yourself, and it's really hard for you to scale out of that. Also, if you haven't gone and acquired a broad range of skills doing those work jobs that we talked about earlier, it means now you have to learn everything straight away and very quickly. So you might have to learn how to do bookkeeping. You might have to learn how to send an invoice, all the rules and laws, and perhaps not straight away, but you might be looking at how to hire an employee. Maybe you're still testing the market. Maybe your product really hasn't landed yet and you don't know what it is that people want from you. You're close, but you're not quite there. So it requires a lot of testing and experimentation and a lot of what feels like wasted time and effort. Sometimes it can feel like drinking from a fire hose. Learning can be tiring. So you're spending a lot of energy just doing the bare basics. So you're not really getting up off the ground and moving very quickly. Now, if you've worked in a job before, you'll have some of those skills and experience, and you may have to modify some of them in a business context instead of an employee context. However, it's going to save you a mass amount of time. So getting that experience early on is absolutely vital. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with going into a business from the beginning with no skills and just giving it a go. That's the quickest way to learn. However, it does cost you less to learn while someone else is paying you to learn, hence being in a job, being useful. And to put it all into perspective, the first $1 million that you make in your business is so hard to make because you're learning everything from scratch for the first time and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Once you've made that $1 million though, you've got a plan, you've got a structure, you've got a process, and now you can scale it. So whilst being is tiring, it is difficult. A lot of businesses fail at this point. You can get to the next phase by being proactive and planning ahead. And one of the ways that you can do that is by recording knowledge articles, videos like this one, where you're talking about how to do this or how to do that. Because when you need to hire that first person, the ramp up time to get that person ready, not only are you trying to run your business flat out, you're also trying to go put in extra time to find that hire. And once you've found that hire, now you have to take time out to train that person. And hopefully they're going to be effective. And if they're not effective straight away, they're costing you money that whole time. So it's a little bit chicken and egg. But if you can do content that you can hand over as soon as they start, so on that first day, they're really, really effective, or they're at least 10% or 20% more effective than they were going to otherwise be. Now you can start to provide more value to your clients whilst still onboarding this person so you don't dip in revenue whilst trying to increase in costs at the same time. So by creating content early on, you are preparing yourself for when you need an employee to do that task. Generally, you're only going to record things that are solidified. You know that you're going to do it that way. You know that you've done it 50 times already, and it's pretty clear that that is the way to do that thing, because you don't want to be recording and documenting processes that are highly likely to change. Or if you do, you need to make sure that you document it in such a way that it's easy to modify. Transitioning to manager. So now that you've been a solopreneur and you've got your first employee, now you're a manager. Congratulations. You're now starting to leverage out of your business. This is where you get to start delegating. Now, I know that when I first started, it was really difficult to delegate tasks. I didn't understand what it was I could delegate. And I had to really kind of think about it, because I felt like I was the only person that could do any of these tasks. But now that you have a team member and that you can delegate, you'd think that things start to get a bit easier. But actually now having an employee brings a whole new host of problems. Now we have a whole new range of tasks that we have to complete, such as payroll, performance reviews, onboarding and exit reviews, a whole bunch of training, leadership, development, the list goes on. So if you haven't done it before, now you have to learn how to recruit, hire, train, and do all of those processes. But also now you have to create a system or a process for a whole bunch of new things that need to get done in your business so that you can scale those processes. And once you've hired several employees, eventually, yes, you can hire a HR team member or a manager to manage the team members. But until you get to that point, there's hard work, learning, and a few mistakes that you're probably going to make along the way. And one problem that I always see with people who run a business and hire for the first time is they expect the employee to work as hard as they do. In reality, that person is there to do a job and they care about the rest of their life. They're only there to work, 8 till 4, 9 till 5, whatever the time series is, Monday to Friday, etc. And once they leave, they're not thinking about your business anymore. They don't lay awake at night thinking about that next client or that email they should have sent or that project that's got to get done. So you need to remember that and create that expectation management in yourself that you can delegate these tasks and processes and just be okay with good enough being good enough, because that's what scales. Perfect does not scale at all. The faster you document your own processes, the faster you can hand off things to new employees. This helps to reduce mistakes, reduce training time, and ease the pressure of getting to that position of actually having staff. So the faster you can do it, the better. And now at this scale, your highs get higher and your lows get lower. So you need to prepare for cash flow swings, and you need to have systems and structures to minimize that violent swing between good and bad. And ideally, you want to try and have your best worst day. So your best worst day is the concept of creating, no matter what happens in your business, if everyone's following the process, even if it's really, really bad, it's not going to get any worse than X. And that allows your team to have a predictable level of quality. It's like when you go to McDonald's and you can order a burger, and even on an average day, the burger still comes out somewhat level of expectation. You know it's going to be burger shaped. You know it's going to have a patty, sauce, pickles, cheese, whatever else that you've put on the burger. And even if it's been hurried put together, it's still edible, it's still okay. There's cleaning standards, there's all sorts of things. And there are performance issues that happen within that. But if you can, within those set boundaries, be good enough, then you're going to be able to scale it. And obviously you want to increase the minimum, as in be better than average, but at the very least, you know what your bottom floor will go to. You know that even on a bad day, it's not going to get any worse than this. Otherwise, if your business goes horrendously bad, then that's going to cause bad reputation. It's going to stop employees coming to your office. It's going to affect your ability to hire and your ability to scale and grow. So at least if you can control the downside, then that makes the upside so much more exciting. Now is the phase where you can be a true business owner. The next level of the business ascension model is being able to step out as the business owner. Now, if you've got it under management and you've got team members doing the recruitment, the sales, the marketing, the customer service, as the business owner, now you can observe from the high level. You may still be actively involved in the business. You may be attending board meetings, but now you are a business owner rather than a business doer. And the goal for this is where it can operate successfully without your constant involvement. One that is built around systems and processes rather than being built around you. Now the business value has exponentially grown, because if you are to sell that business, now you have something of value that somebody else could step in and run under management and not really have any issues making money. To reach this level, you have to master your leadership skills. You have to find the right people and effectively delegate and learn to trust them that they know what they're doing, and the right person does know what they're doing. They do have skills of their own. And in fact, if you set the right conditions, then they will surprise you. They will come up with new ideas. They will develop new processes. And all you need now is the management oversight to make sure it's going in the direction that you want it to go. To get yourself to this position, one of the most impactful things that you can do is set a date when you want to stop working. Put in your mind a date on the calendar when you will no longer be part of the everyday operations of the business. This gives you a metric to work towards and allows you to proactively set metrics and milestones and smaller chunks of goals that help you work towards that. So it might be setting up a whole bunch of documentation. It might be enabling a marketing team, enabling a sales team, enabling a business operations team, whatever it is. But the more and more you reduce your everyday involvement, now you can do bigger, better, more proactive things. You can create strategic direction. You can make partnerships. You can do really interesting, new and innovative things, all the while creating a valuable asset and increasing the value of that asset progressively as you go. But what does this level practically look like? Well, it could mean that you attend a board meeting once a month or a management meeting once a week. And the rest of the time, well, the business just runs itself. So that's how you know you've made it. So the object of the business owner phase is to create an asset that operates without you, whether you show up or not. So in all of this, it's important to have a long-term vision. And the vision to create the business is to create a long-term valuable asset that you can sell, not necessarily a business that is centered around you. If you've done that, then you're an employee, not a business owner. So I encourage you to set a goal on what your business is going to look like when you sell it, size, revenue, and maybe create a business plan for it at that size. So it's like a future-based document. It's a vision document. I think a lot of times business owners make a vision statement and it's supposed to be a one-liner, which is great when you're communicating to outside audiences. But I think you need to be a bit more clear. We've got a 5-page vision document that really goes through exactly what it looks like. And it's like us in the future looking back on what's happened. And the idea of this is that you help really solidify for not only you, but your team on what the company looks like. How many staff do you have? What's your revenue? What do your customers look like? You don't have to name names, but at least if you say, I want to work with ASX listed companies, or I want to work with, millionaire founders or something like that. Whatever it is, goal, that document helps you really set the tone and communicate it, because now it's not simply good enough to think about it yourself as the business owner. You pretty much have to write everything down to communicate it to the team. Every thought you have needs to be shareable. And the faster you can figure out how to do that, then the faster that you can get other people doing that work for you so that you don't have to. The final step on the entrepreneurial ladder is the ultimate goal. That's where you want to get to, and that is the investor. Now, this is where you've done your hard work. Maybe you've sold your company or a portion of it, or it's running under management and you're taking revenue from it. This is where you get to do the fun stuff, and that is do things that create passive revenue. So that could be investing in other businesses and systemizing those, or building a team that systemizes businesses, again, running under management, or creating wealth through other avenues such as real estate, shares, online courses, whatever it is that you're passionate about. But this helps you to diversify and de-risk your time investment from the outcome. So you've always got enough to support yourself, even if that project fails. You've always got enough to live your everyday life and make decisions that you actually want to do, not because you're forced to out of being able to make enough money to put food on the table. So in conclusion of this unit, the journey of entrepreneurship is not just about making money. It's about learning and growing. And it's something that will never leave you. It's something that happens continuously. Every business is in a constant state of change. And so you need to be adapting and molding and shifting in order to meet that change. New technologies, new market forces, all of these things. But once you get to this point, now it's fun. It's not just a chore that you had to do to get to that point. So remember, keep learning, keep growing, keep evolving, and continue your knowledge journey. And that will help you to build your business into a scalable and saleable asset.